Welcome to the Moms Village show. I'm Isis Nyong'o Madison, and I'm the founder of Moms Village and the host of the show. We're really excited to be here today talking about relationships, all sorts of relationships, relationships with your kids, relationships with your partner, with yourself, and really have a seasoned woman that we're very excited to be on the show today for what should be a very thought-provoking discussion with Janet.
Absolutely. Great to see you as usual, Isis. Welcome. I'm Janet Bogwandishu. So excited to be part of Moms Village. And like Isis said, it's really a show that's going to delve into relationships around motherhood. Next to me is Sally Mahihu, and I'm giving her that grandiose introduction because, first of all, she's known me since I was a little girl. So I keep saying I feel like I'm going to call you Aunt Sally. But she's the founder of Seasoned Woman, which she'll tell us what it is in just a minute. She's also a lawyer, she's a mother, she's a wife, and I don't know how she does it all, but she does, and she's great at it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Isis and Janet.
Right.
I'm humbled to be here.
Thank you. Maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about what Seasoned Woman is and what inspired you to start the forum.
Very good. The Seasoned Woman Forum was birthed out of my burden for the woman in the marketplace, what I call the woman in the various pillars in the society, in the media, in the business, in politics, the woman like you and I. And it was like I would look around my friends and there was this talents and giftings and such ability and capacity, and I wonder whether they know what they've got and how to nurture it and bring it out there and influence other women, or do they know why they're in the particular area of influence they're in. Like Janet, does she know why she's in the media, you know? Does she know what she's supposed to ultimately bring forth and influence? And she's a voice, you know? And I noticed I was surrounded by women who are voices in their areas of influence. So in fact, the vision is provoking the woman in the marketplace to influence her sphere. To be a voice, you know, positively influence and be an agent of change. So I formed the Seasoned Woman Forum, and the word seasoned has been misunderstood many times because it sounds like it's a woman who has accomplished, who's arrived, who's gotten all her dreams in place and she's made all the money. Contrary to that, seasoned in my interpretation means the woman who's been there, done that, been through divorce, been through tragedy, loss of a child, financial issues. She's survived the seasons. Yeah, that's what it means.
It's a brilliant meaning behind it. I didn't actually realize that. That's a really powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I've attended a few, and they're very powerful forums. And I know, I mean, Isis and I are very passionate about parenting and motherhood, and you know, so I think one of the reasons we wanted to bring you in is just to tell us a little bit more about maybe your thoughts on, you know, motherhood in Kenya. I know that's a very broad question. You've observed, you have different age groups of mothers who attend the forums, young, older. What are your thoughts on how mothers are parenting in Kenya, and maybe what are your concerns around that as well?
In fact, parenting is one of the modules we do at the Seasoned Woman. It's a main module, it's a main conversation, and we deal with the young mother, the teen mother, and the young adult mother. And I chose to deal with that topic because I do a lot of counseling of mothers, young, middle, and whatever. And I find, okay, parenting is probably the hardest thing I ever did. And when my children were little, I thought it was hard. And as they got to teenagehood, I thought it was harder. And now that they're young adults, it's harder. And my mother-in-law tells me when they get married, it gets harder. Because you're like watching them in their marriages and wondering whether it will work. So what it is I've observed women, it's probably one of the most traumatic and painful experiences when things aren't going right with your child. If you remember when your kids are sick, when something, even as a new mother, when the child, something's not right or something really goes wrong with your child has been bullied, there's such a pain. It's not even the pain that your husband was done what, you know. You get over it and like, oh, he's a big boy, he can fight for himself. But with a child, there's something about children and motherhood that really brings you to your knees. If I've ever seen women cry tears and go on their knees, is when it affects a child. You know, so there's something very deep there. And I've done a lot of counseling to mothers, and I find that there's a genuine and deep-seated desire to get it right. Okay? So there is a desire, and they look for help. Women look for help. How should I deal with my 2-year-old? Oh, my 7, my 15. So that's a positive thing. Mothers in Kenya look for help. They seek to know how to do it. So we're always trying to balance not spoiling the child, but not abandoning your child.
Right.
It's a very thin line when you think, I'm not really spoiling him, I'm enabling him. There's a thin line between empowering and spoiling.
Yeah.
So I think that's where a lot of women say they get confused, because I don't want to leave them out here I don't want to tell him to walk to school without shoes because my father did it or my grandfather did it. You know, those things that parents used to say. But at the same time, you want to empower him to become his own person, her own person, without spoiling. And those are challenges I watch. As I deal with mothers, I hear that. Like, let's say with young adult kids, for me, 28, 27, I want to empower them. I want them to get a head start. But where do I draw the line between over empowering them and really being responsible as a parent, So that's where I think the challenges come. But all in all, I think there's a genuine desire to get it right among our mothers. Yeah, there is.
And I think one of the questions, Isis, and we were discussing this, is it's almost alluding to what you're saying about being a friend and a figure of authority. And I think that's something that, I mean, how do you balance that? How do you be a friend? And if you could just briefly give us your thoughts on that.
I think we need to be very careful when I hear mothers say, oh, my daughter is my best friend. I don't believe in that. Especially with single moms, I've dealt with a lot of single moms who make their young adult daughters their best friends. So they begin sharing everything and everything, exposing all your issues to your daughter, your pain, your breakups, your what, if it's issues of relationships. And I think there's times we burden kids with more than they need to know or handle. A child is a child up to a certain stage. And I think as parents, we need to be careful how much, because when you say a best friend, you tell your best friend things. You burden them with your financial issues, with your what issues. So I think when you say your daughter or your son is your best friend, then it means you're pouring responsibility. You're releasing burdens on that child that he or she can't really handle at that stage.
Right. So save that for your girlfriends.
Yes,
and
your buddies.
All right.
Your Spice Girls and your boys.
But I think we have to go into, we have to quickly go into a break, and we'll come back and talk a lot more about managing relationships as a mom. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show. We're having a great discussion right now, really in the thick of discussing relationships with Sally. So Sally, I had lots of thoughts, reactions to what you're saying, but because you have children who are adults now, and what I'm loving is intergenerational conversation, because we have very young children and there's a lot that we don't get to talk about, especially people with older children. And that is to understand maybe how the relationships change over time. And because earlier you were saying that you don't want to be best friends with your child, but can you grow to become best friends as they become adults?
One of the things that I've done and it has worked, and I've seen other mothers do it, is let your child from early, like your children, your young babies, let them know you're on their side. My children have always known we are in the same team. They would never panic or run to anybody else in a crisis other than us as their parents. We've always given them that assurance. We're on your side. So never feel you have to hide things from us or run away from us to go and share with somebody else or get help from an outsider. Because no matter how bad the crisis is, we are on the same team and we'll stand with you no matter what we need to do to sort it out, and then discipline you. So from a very early age, I taught my children that. So they learned not to hide things of what happened, what they broke, what they did, bad things they did. So even as they've grown into adults, there's not a crisis they've ever hid from us, because they knew no matter how angry we might be, we're on the same team. We'll sort it out and then discipline them. So the relationship aspect involved in terms of the sharing, because when they're little, there is the nurturing, there is the hands-on nurturing, do this, do this. But there's also that I watched a lot of cartoons with my kids. I mean, you know how you had those little chairs in the TV room? I sat there and we watched. We bonded in a way, in the sense that we shared. I knew the cartoons. I knew which character was the... I'd go to their level. I'd go to their level and would identify, because I could see, oh, mommy's, she knows, that's her favorite, this is my favorite. And as they grew, we continued with that kind of a bond of like, not a friendship where my authority was ever eroded. Because the minute you become like friends, buddies, and they lose that line boundary, then they will never respect. When you need to change it to authority, they'll not respect. So I kept it like there's authority. I'm a disciplinarian. Yes, I'm a tough mom. I would discipline when the time comes. But they'll always know there's a mom who is with me. She's on my side. Yeah, she's in my team. And as we got older, yes, you become relaxed with one another. It's not like calling the shots, calling the instructions. Do this, don't do this, don't do this. Now we jadiliana, we talk. My sons will give me advice. They'll actually tell me, Mommy, the way you're dealing with your workers, just chill. Just chill. I'm surprised they're still working for you. I mean, they give me advice and we talk and they share their issues. So it's evolved into, we sit down and discuss, but there's always a clear demarcation of when mom becomes mom and mom says, my advice to you on this issue is this, 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 or discipline. Don't do this because of this. So it's a balancing act. Yeah.
All right. Maybe I can step in and ask. I know a lot of what we want to talk about, and we'll come into that in a bit, is, you know, sort of like keeping a marriage alive after having kids and your social life. But because we're still on the subject of children, someone out there might say, I'm struggling with mine. They're very difficult. They're not really listening to me. How do you manage a difficult child? And what is a difficult child? Maybe we need to define a difficult child first.
I think one of the things I'd encourage mothers is that it's never that serious. It's never that bad. I mean, people get, mothers panic because a child is naughty, being thrown out of school. And I'm like, we've heard of people who are presidents today or CEOs who are thrown out of school. So I'm like, have the perspective, get your perspective. Don't overreact about the naughtiness of the child. And I think it's learning the character of your children, because children are different. So you know this child is prone to this. So you're managing that kind of dysfunction in that child. And I think the idea is difficult becomes, I talk of naughtiness is naughtiness. The child did this, they were bullying in school, or they threw something at the teacher, or they came and they stole what was in the cupboard. Naughtiness. It's almost like harmless naughtiness, and you're managing character. You're dealing with character issues. You shouldn't steal, you shouldn't take what is not yours, you shouldn't bully, you shouldn't call names. So you're nurturing the child. And difficult to me is when the heart issues come in. When a child becomes viciously hurtful, or when you look at it, it's not just naughty. Now the child is malicious. The child wants to hurt the family. The child wants to hurt another. It's like, then there's a problem. And I always tell every parent, don't say you don't know. Or even if you don't, there must be a deep-rooted issue. Because children are children. You're not, yes, but you're not evil. You're not evil and sinister and whatever. But when a child begins to behave sinister and wicked and really malicious, almost hurting the parents, hurting the siblings, a difficult child who can't maintain anything, can't have relationships, difficult. When it gets to the heart, it's coming from the heart. There's something wrong fundamentally. And I always tell the parent, please find out, please let's go backwards, because there's something deep-rooted about this child that we need to find out.
And when can that start manifesting? When they're very young or when they're older?
As they get old. In fact, when they're little, I think when they're little, it's very difficult to manifest a real wickedness, because they don't have the capacity for wickedness. But in teenage, I've seen manifestations. And that's when the child has undergone something that they're not bringing it out, or they're angry about something, and it turns nasty and ugly. And it's not naughtiness anymore.
So it's just to get to the root of the issue. And like I said, I really want to delve into to managing a marriage when having kids and social life, because Lord knows mine has changed. But we're going to take a short break and we'll come back and talk about that. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the show. We're really excited to continue talking to Sally and getting your final bits of advice about marriage in particular right now. So Janet, you had a great question for her around marriage.
Just how do you keep the marriage alive after having kids? There's always, I like the way I went alive with my eyebrows. But because a lot of people feel like, you know, we all know what happens in terms of the thought process, but how do you?
And it's crucial. And I think, I believe in young mothers being counseled or mentored before, that the marriage is there for life, in the sense that your spouse, you remain together. The children will grow up and leave. So you must keep in mind that there's a relationship here that's foundational and must continue. So when the children come, there's a balancing act. The husband must get his due attention and time. Because what happens, we get obsessed with the kids. And I always tell young mothers, you must give them their own portion of time. You must learn, parenting is hands-on, of course, and there are things you can't delegate. And it's a question of organizing your time management, which means giving up certain things out there so that you spend time with the kids at the right time and give your husband time at the right time. And even names. I remember talking to young mothers who call their baby baby, baby. So the husband is asking, I thought I was your baby. There's a confusion there. Suddenly the baby's got all the attention, and the husband, the big baby, suddenly feels left out. You must guard the marriage. Children can actually mess a marriage. They can destroy a marriage if you're not careful, because of the undue attention you give them, because you have not managed your time properly and organized yourself.
Right. And again, very quickly, is about the social life. I really feel, I don't know if I'm throwing shade here or calling people out, but I do feel like my social life changed a lot. You find like people who you've known all your life, and suddenly they fizzle away, or you get the sense that they're not necessarily happy for you or where you're going.
They're not getting you.
They're not getting you. So how do you manage that? How do you deal with it in that season? Yes.
Yes, but even when you got married, girls, your relationships changed.
Yeah.
Didn't it? Yeah. You knew there were those who got what you're into, what they've understood. You've entered into a very serious institution, a very serious phase in your life. And so they weren't there yet. Okay, and so spending too much time with them is not adding value to building your marriage. So you find yourself gravitating to girlfriends who are also married because you had a lot to share and discuss. There is still friends who are single, who are not married, who are in your life. Yes, but you find the destructive ones, the ones who really don't get it, or they would even encourage you to be away from the home. Or if you say you fought with the husband, they will encourage you like, yes, you're right and he's wrong. You see, like a wise woman, a wise married woman. Likewise with kids. When the kids come, it changes. You can't be out all hours of the night or spend as many hours away, because now you're managing the marriage. Remember, you gave up certain things to manage them for the marriage.
Time has disappeared.
Yes. Then the baby comes, and you have to give up some time in other social things and friendships to manage the baby and home. Okay. It's a life change, and you have to be ready for it.
It's a sacrifice and a journey. And I think Sally mentioned something, Isis, that you had also said was coming from one of the WhatsApp groups.
Yes. So one of the things, we have a number of moms in our communities on WhatsApp. So we have a variety of WhatsApp groups, and we reached out and asked questions they might have for you. You're quite well known, and people know about Seasoned Woman, and there were a lot of fantastic questions. We don't have enough time for most of them, but one of the questions we thought was really powerful was, were there opportunities that you gave up when you became a mother? And interesting to know what those might have been, and have you made up for them later, right? So because there's a signal that when you're younger, starting off, there's this urgency of like, I can't have everything now, I'll never have it. So just curious.
Yes, I believe that in parenting and in marriage, there's seasons. There's a season for everything, and even that song that says, "I'm every woman."
Yes.
I know. You can't be every woman in every season. There's certain emphasis in different seasons, just like in marriage. So in my parenting, earlier on when my babies were born, the same age as your babies, as a lawyer, I was just starting off as a lawyer, I gave up things like partnership. I gave up growing as fast as I could have grown in the firm to become a partner, because I knew I had to leave at 11:30 to pick my babies from kindergarten and from playgroup. I chose to do that. I knew if I didn't and I delegated it, I would get further in my career in a shorter time. But I said to myself, this season is to lay a foundation for my children. And it sounds petty, but I wanted to pick my children from school because I wanted to hear what happened. I wanted to hear, so hit me. Oh, I drew this, mommy. Because what if you're hearing at 5 o'clock is the first time you're hearing, when you come home from your jobo, and you're hearing for the first time, this is what I drew in class. It's late, it's old, it's not there. Or you're not hearing what he experienced. So I gave up climbing in my career at the beginning, and I gave my children time. In fact, ask your mom, she knows. People used to say, Kwani, you're the only one with children, you're always talking about your children. I was a bit fanatical, but and because I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't nurtured and mummied and what. My parents broke up very early. I had a stepmom who was busy with her own kids. So I didn't have the chance of being sports day, who would bring the chocolate cake to my sports, who would run I ran every race for my children. Amazing. And I won every race. I brought every chocolate cake.
Oh my gosh.
The works. So you give up. I gave up a lot at the beginning. I caught it up. Today I beg my sons to spend time with me. It's like they say, Mommy, we've bonded, yeah? How many minutes? I'm going out. I'm going out, mom, yeah? And he's eating, he's come to my fridge. They live on their own, so they have their own food. But he comes, takes stuff from my fridge. Mommy, have we bonded enough? And watch a movie. Let's watch a movie together. What do you want us to watch?
That's good.
So I thank God that I gave them time.
And that you were able to.
Now I'm free to do everything I need to do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's time for everything.
Sally, I feel like
There's
we
time
could
for
spend
everything.
the entire day talking to you, but unfortunately, that's kind of where we have to at least end this part of the conversation for now, because when we come back, we have a very exciting life hack that we can't wait to share with you right here on the Moms Village Show.
That's good.
Welcome back to the Moms Village Show. We're doing the life hack segment now, which is really fun. It's a segment where we bring out creative ideas of how to have a hack around something important to motherhood, make your life easier, faster, cheaper, whatever it is. And today we're looking at stain removal, because that's something that affects us all as soon as you start having children who move around, or even before that. So let's get into it. Let's check out our stain removal life hack right now.
Are you annoyed by all the various stains you've got? Omo has all the tips and tricks you need. At first glance, mud stains often look like tough customers, but they're actually pretty simple to remove. First, leave to dry. Yep, just sit back and relax. Mud stains are much easier to remove after they've fully dried out and hardened. Then, scrape it off. Use a stiff, bristled brush or spoon to scrape off as much of the mud as possible. It should come away easily. So easily that it's a good idea to perform this step outside. Otherwise, you'll only find more mud stains on the carpet. You might be surprised to learn that a high-quality detergent is usually all that's needed. Allow Omo washing powder to lather, soak, and wash off the stain with cold water. Hot water can set the stain. It's as easy as it sounds. Did the little one get a toothpaste stain on their shirt? Don't wait for the stain to dry. Use a clean, damp towel or cloth to lightly blot the stain. If you're tackling a dried-on toothpaste stain, try to lift away the crust of toothpaste with a blunt knife or an old credit card first. And then use a clean cloth to carefully dampen the area underneath and flush out as much of the stain as you can. We have an easy stain removal method when it comes to grass marks. A high-quality detergent is usually all that's needed. Allow Omo washing powder to lather and wash off the stain with cold water. Hot water can set the stain.
It's pretty cool.
No. Wow.
Yes. So you're familiar with Omo.
Yes.
Simple and
In our days, the products were very different. I don't remember how we removed stains in our days. I don't remember, quite honestly.
And kids probably played outside more.
They did play outside more.
And they did,
definitely-
but there were ways. I'm sure we had ways. This is really good.
This is very helpful. I think this is going to help a lot of moms.
Yeah.
But I think most of all, we really want to thank you, Sally. And like I said, we could do a whole day with you. But I think your wisdom is appreciated.
so much.
And yeah, just thank you for seasoned woman and for everything that you do, and for encouraging moms out there.
And keep up the good work,
Oh,
girls.
thank
You're
you.
doing a
Yes.
great job, both of you.
Thank
Keep
you.
it up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, and thank you obviously for watching the Moms Village show.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And yeah, keep talking to us.
Keep talking to us. We'll see you next time. Always happy to get comments on Facebook, and any comments. We're always free to take new ideas for hacks and other things we could do with the show. Which types of topics are of interest to you? So remember, it takes a village. So
It takes a village.
Getting all those ideas collectively,
Right.
will always make it better.
All right. All right. Bye. See you.